Hello, and thank you for watching and listening to the Woodsong podcast. I'm your host, Sam Larson, and today we have an excellent interview with a very special guest. Many of you might know him from season 1 of Alone on the History Channel. Now, he and I were both on season 1 of the Wilderness Survival Challenge show of Alone, and he is best known for, unfortunately, losing his ferro rod, his only method of fire starting as far as a tool is concerned, on about day 3 of his journey, and then tapping out, leaving and going home after losing that fire implement. It was something he took a lot of gruff over within the next few months or so, but he decided to stand up and to get through things and really make the best of the situation. He's now one of the top YouTube influencers in his field and an excellent outdoor filmmaker. So without further ado, here is my talk with Joe Robinet.
Good memories. Do you do that when you're filming still? Do you clap sync your stuff?
Yeah, man.
Nice.
That's where I learned it.
Really?
Yep.
So you learned some of that. How much of your filming would you say, like, that you utilize now in your YouTube videos that you learned from our training on Alone?
Like, very minimal, very little bit. So like you were saying, the clap thing, for sure I do that when I'm using 2 cameras.
Yeah.
One of the other things was to build a story, right? The beginning, the middle, the end, and you have each scene even.
Mm.
Those are the 2 big things. And then the only other thing was when you're panning, to stop on a subject, not just pan for no reason.
I still go all the way through. I don't stop.
Why?
Why stop? You don't need to stop. Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Some of that stuff you can use, some of it you can't. For those of you who aren't super up on it, when Joe and I were training for Alone, it was a season 1 thing. So like they didn't quite have everything figured out. You know, as anything goes, still a learning experience. And so we kind of got how much camera training do you think each of us got? Like,
significant. You know what I mean? Like they wanted us to have some clue what we were doing. We were the guinea pigs, like you're saying, right?
Yeah.
But I remember there was a few days dedicated to complete training, and then we had like a little one-on-one stuff. Who dropped their camera? Remember that? Somebody dropped theirs right off the hub, right on the cement.
I forget. They were just such a great cast of characters. Season 1, I just don't, I can't remember them all. Too much happening.
It was a lot going on, buddy.
Oh my goodness. It's unfortunate, but the behind the scenes doesn't get filmed, or didn't really get filmed for our season, because there was some hilarious stuff going on for season 1. People, puffing their chests out, and you get 10 guys, or what was it, 18 guys, something like that, all in the same place.
Well, in New York, 18 for sure. Yeah, maybe even more. It might have been 20.
The things guys will do to try to look tough in front of their buddies is just really, right. Really funny. Man,
that's a good group of guys.
It was. They're all really, really nice. Like people come up to me and they want me to kind of say bad things about some of the cast, and I just can't do it. They're just too nice. I like them too much. Except for you, Joe. I make fun of you. Mostly just your accent.
I remember probably the first memory I have of you was like the second day in New York, and you were down there early in the little lounge, the breakfast area. You were by yourself sitting there, and I grabbed some breakfast and I came and sat next to you, and I was like, just trying to get a feel for everybody. And I was like, so what do you do, man? What are you all about? You're like, oh, basically, I just like to sit around the campfire and tell lies. And I was like, I remember that. You know what I mean? That was my initial memory of you.
That's what we do, man. We make s'mores. Swap lies. That's what we do. And that's great. Joe was one of the first guys who I connected with in that first season cast. Like you said, we had breakfast together that first day in the hotel, and that was right before our big meeting, right? Remember that meeting we all went into, and the first ever Alone meeting with the cast, and they explained the show to us. because we weren't all super clear on what we were actually doing up until that point.
As clear as mud. Remember when they told us what the grand prize would be? We had no idea.
Yeah. Like,
we're all floored.
By the way, you guys get money for this. If you know, like what? That was great.
Yeah, man. Like you're saying, like we weren't really. No, I don't know about everybody, but I know a good chunk of us weren't in that for the money. We didn't know what we were going to get paid, if anything.
See, that's what's so special. I talked to so many people about the show in general, and a lot of them tell me, even people who have been on other seasons will tell me that season 1 is still their favorite. And first, I think that just the storyline, how stories were told season 1 is different than the other season. I love them all, but and on top of that, it was a bunch of guys who were like just figuring it out, you know,
right.
making mistakes all over the place, and just like none of us had any clue what we were doing. You know, we had these cameras, we were supposed to film it. It was a ridiculous mess, but it was a fun mess for a lot of the time. So that first meeting as well, they read the gear. Remember that the
right.
gear we were going to take with us on the show, and I think saw wasn't on the items yet. We had to ask him for it. Could you ask for saw?
That. You and Brant, there was a few guys like, we need these things, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah. trying to fudge the numbers on that too. Trying to like, what if I bring this? Can I also bring this?
right.
Can I utilize this camera item as a tool?
Nope.
There was that. What did Wayne ask if he could dehumidify? It was like a dehumidifier cap thing. Wayne Cole Craven Bushcraft, who we love on the YouTube, by the way, check him out. He asked if we were allowed to dehumidify. I don't know. Sticks using the little metal Altoid shaped thing, and luckily our producer is pretty good humored. He was like, yeah, you can if you find a way.
Grant was the man. I liked Grant a lot.
It was an awesome crew season 1, and from talking to other people, the crew's changed a lot, but they're still really enjoying working with the existing crew, and they've added on to it from what I've spoken with seasons 2, 3, and 4. Our season was like a 3 or 4 person crew in the field. Other seasons now it's more like a 10, 15 person crew in the field is what I've heard. That's what I think they had on season 4. So it's like safety guys. You got like 3 safety guys. You got like 2 ecological type survival consultants. And obviously the people are still just as alone as ever, but that's what I've heard from, like the season 3 and 4 people that, the changes that have been made. But it sounds from talking to them, it's pretty good changes. But
that's to be expected with any kind of growth, right? So you're saying, like, that makes sense.
Yeah, and they, my favorite question, I'm not going to say who said it. I hope he's listening, though, because it was hilarious. And I would love to have him on the podcast as well. But one of our guys, season 1, asked, we were going to launch in October, I think, fall. And he said, how am I going to do my taxes in April? Deadpan asked. So what am I going to do about my taxes? And they're like, I don't know, man. We'll let you know when the time comes.
Right. There was so much up in the air, man. We all had no idea about anything, right? Like, nobody, not even the people who were supposed to know what was up.
Yeah, that was part of the fun of it, just learning, making mistakes, hearing about other people making worse mistakes than you, which is a great segue into Joe Robinet.
There was only one person to make a worse mistake.
Joe, what are you most known for season 1?
It's probably like my good filming abilities, my good natured. It's the fire steel, man. You know what it is. I'd like to say it was the bear. I'd like to say it was me just laughing and talking to this bear across when other guys are a little worried about it, but that's not the case.
You were there you were there for 3 days, and I think honestly the production company was super sad that you left, because the footage you turned out from those 3 days was awesome. They used you in like all the. You're still in promos to this day after 3 days of filming. You know, there are thousands of other days of people are out there, but your 3 days still make it into things, which is great.
Dude, I filmed too much. I really did. I did.
You really did. And yeah, so like I can totally relate. Like I've made so many mistakes out in the bush. Like you're concentrating on other things, and I always tell people that in a way, the first week on alone was the hardest because you're running around. You've got no idea what's going on. You're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, and you don't catch your bearings. And then after that, you become slow and methodical about your actions. See, those early days, you're not. You're still getting used to it. I didn't get the chance
to be methodical and slow. You're exactly right, dude. You're 100% right.
Because you were in basically survival mode at that point. You were like trying to get set up for the future.
And I was, yes. Yep.
So
I don't want to make excuses. Like I legit was dehydrated, and my mind was racing. Like you're saying, I was not in the right frame of mind at all. Like it was survival mode. Like you're saying, man.
And so that's basically the end of the podcast. End of the story. Joe ended up moving in with his family, living in their basement, and. He's just been a bum ever since. So, Joe, thanks for having you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And, I just wish you the best.
I think I'll scrape myself up off the ground. And, you had me for a minute. I'm like, oh, that was pretty quick. All right.
No, but here's what's so cool about Joe. A lot of people, they looked at it and they saw, what he did as a failure, and people were like raking you across the coals.
Oh, buddy, I ruined people's lives.
You hurt my feelings, and apparently you hurt a lot of other people's feelings as well.
Right.
It's not hard to hurt my feelings, okay? I'm sensitive, and so are other people apparently, because you were getting harassed on social media. Your YouTube was flooded with bad stuff. Like people were like wearing you out. What was that like?
It was horrible. I was actually pretty bummed out. Like maybe, if I'm being all honest, maybe I got a little depressed about it for a while. This is my whole thing. You know what I mean? This is me. I'm this guy. Not only that, on social media, I had to myself. Like it sucked. Like I didn't want to go. I had something to prove to myself, and it was just no closure. So yeah, it sucked, and then to have everybody on me like that really, really, really sucked. And what's the craziest thing is I got a lot of misconceived ideas is that being on alone helped me in some way, which it didn't. You know what I mean? It hurt me. It hurt me big time. It hurt everything. It hurt socially, everything. And it's like, that sucked. But I made a point to come back from it. And you can look on a video maybe like 3 years ago now, however long, right when we came back from there, and I just laid it all out. I just said, everybody's blown past me. This is what's happened. And I'm going to bounce back, and I'm going to come back hard, and I'm going to come back on top. I'm going to be the #1 outdoor YouTube channel. And I said that 3 years ago.
I remember being a little bit more depressing of a video than that. But I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's a different one. No.
I'm just joking, man.
Oh no, that was a depressing video.
We're gonna link it up. We're gonna link your video up here so people can watch it and see what happens. It's one of the good things about the internet, and when you put things up. First, the bad thing about the internet, the fact that anyone can post anything about anything at any time. The good thing, though, is that it fully documents what happened. So Joe can go back to this video and be like, 3 years ago, I said I was going to work really hard. I was going to overcome the super bad thing that happened to me on national television in front of 2 million people, and I'm going to make something good about it. How many YouTube subscribers did you have when you left for alone?
Dude, I don't know, man. It's hard to pinpoint it off the top of my head, but it's less than 30, maybe 16,000, and that was after like a good 5 solid years of YouTube.
Yeah, and now you are at. I'll read it.
Sure.
I'll read it because I don't want you to fudge the numbers, man. You're shady.
I don't know. It's
shady stuff. All right, Joe Robinette. Joe Robinet on YouTube. Little side note, it's totally pronounced Robinet because he's French. But he says, no, it's Joe Robinette.
Hey, my family bastardized it many moons ago, so I just have to go with the flow, you know?
Joe Robinette.
Robinet.
He'd fit in well here in Nebraska. Is at 542,037 people now. So a little bit of a change since then. So it's
that jump came from 2016 to 2017 most of. So I got up to 100 in 2016, and then from 2016 to 2017, 400 more.
Yeah, 400,000 more, which is insane. So I think the story is very clear here, Joe, and what you did is that no TV at this point, especially like reality TV, like what we did, it's not going to make or break you. It's all up to like the decisions that you make, the work that you put in to become what you want to become.
Right.
And that's exactly what you did. You could have said, since I was on TV and TV didn't go well, I need to, be a plumber or something like that. You could have done that. But you said, hey, we're gonna go a little bit of a different route. Work your best on YouTube. Even though that's where all your heat is coming, is on YouTube, you're still gonna, trudge ahead and get through that. What was your transition like from getting back, after the dust settled, let's say? How do you go from that to where you were at the end of 2017 or even 2016, we could say? What are the steps? Like, how did you put in the work? What did you change in your filming? What was the change that happened?
I started to take it way more serious. So up until Alone, I was working a job. After Alone, I was still working a job. But up until all then, I was working like a normal 9-to-5 job, and then just doing this as a hobby on the side. And when I decided to just really pour it on, I got a lot of information from some people. One person in particular was Zed from Zed Outdoors. He's got a YouTube channel and Instagram, and he really knew a lot about social media. So he really gave me a lot of ideas and helpful information on how to really take it to the next step. I started doing a ton of research on my own. I got a little YouTube help from YouTube, and started pumping them out, and started regularly pumping them out, and then really taking note of my analytics and what my subscribers were saying and what videos did well. I tried to build on that and do more of those type of videos, and then just really be personable. I started to really be myself to the camera, like talk to the camera like he was just like a friend, you know what I mean? And people really picked up on that. So I started doing longer and longer videos. Overnight camps were the good ones that everybody liked. I really did this one at the beginning of 2016. It was a 2-night bushcraft camp where I built a shelter, like a lean-to. I only had a small backpack. It snowed a lot. It did really well, but somebody shared it on Reddit, and it blew up. And I don't really understand Reddit at all. I don't know anything about it. It's so confusing for me. But yeah, man, it blew up and just got me a whole bunch of subscribers, a whole bunch of views right away. And then things just went really, really well for like a good half a year. Linked up with a couple of cool people, Sean James from My Self-Reliance, who's I've done a couple of videos with, and he's actually blown up now, building his log cabin.
He's insane.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah, really. I just got back. I literally got back yesterday from camping with him. We went ice fishing and stuff. It was really fun. But yeah, man, just putting the work in and taking it seriously. Really trying to hone in and I don't do it as much anymore because I can't, because it's so much, but comment back all the time, like talk to my subscribers all the time back in the comments and stuff like that, and just really engage people. The BAM Son.
Joe's come out with BAM Son as a very good branding there. It also it's a little bit of a throwback to Joe's skateboarder days, isn't it? Mm-hmm. With that graphic look to it.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Kind of tells people who you are a little deeper even.
Right.
But get yourself a BAM Son shirt to support Joe. is always a good thing. What I think a lot of people like about your videos, this is my thought that I lost. It almost seems like you've taken the vlogging style of taping things. So people are going around and they like vlog themselves getting their fancy coffees every day. Like you've seen those videos, right, on YouTube, and they're like messing around and pretending like they're rich and all that stuff. But you actually do really cool things with that vlogging platform. So it's a lot of handheld, showing yourself, and then showing what you're doing, kind of making a story around that. So I'm setting up my shelter now because this and this and this. So you're telling more of a really meaningful life story in that, okay, I'm going into the woods now. Here's what we're going to do to get really, really comfortable for the night, and just enjoy the woods, rather than strutting around the city acting like you're all suave and whatnot, like all those a lot of other YouTubers will do. But that's what I like, is that it's kind of like a vlog platform. And when you call someone a YouTuber, so to speak, I almost don't see you in the same category as a lot of other YouTubers, because you're not simply making videos for the sake of people seeing you on videos. You're almost like a complete videographer with what you do. You've got the different, the scenic shots. You've got everything put together. It's like you're watching a real documentary. It's not just awesome. a YouTube, man. It's a real documentary type filming. So I think in my opinion, that is why you've gotten really popular. I think people love watching that. They see how much work you put in, and it's just really enjoyable to watch, rather than someone popping up. This is Joe Robinet, and I'm here to teach you all how to, do your thing there.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome to hear, man. For real. Like, I've heard before that people have likened it to vlogs as well, which it's very cool. It's very cool to hear, and I'm glad that you think so.
So if someone else is listening and they're interested in sort of not following in your footsteps, because there's only one Bam son at the moment. If someone else is wanting to get started with videotaping their adventures, what do you recommend they do? What do you recommend they bring with them to the woods as far as camera, equipment? Outdoor equipment is obviously a huge conversation on its own. But as far as equipment, and what do you say they should film when they go out?
Yeah, like these days it's super accessible to be able to do that kind of stuff, right? You don't need a bunch of money to get a decent camera. I would try to get something other than your phone, but your phone works fine as well, as long as you can, like if you have I don't know, you can edit on your own phone if you have an Apple or something along those lines. But a decent camera, go out and just film yourself. So a super important thing to have is a tripod. When I first started out, I didn't have one, and I was like literally like taping my camera to trees and like trying to prop it up on sticks and stuff. Just get a cheap tripod, a little Gorilla Pod, because odds are if you're doing this cheap or to start it with, you're not going to have a big heavy camera. So just get a decent tripod, a decent camera, and film what you're going to want to do. Like you're going out to the woods, just kind of explain to the audience like going to the woods today, it's a nice day or it's not. Explain what type of weather it is, what type of feeling you have that then you're going, why you're going to the woods. Try and set up shots where you're not in the same clip for more than 10 seconds, unless you have to be. You have lots of different angles, lots of different clips. If you watch a TV show, they're never on the same angle or clip for more than 10 seconds. Really, that's a long one. Just keep it personal. Really be yourself. And it really doesn't matter what you're going to do after that. All the other stuff is going to fall into place. You're going to get more comfortable. You're going to understand what kind of content you want. Your own little. You're going to develop your own style. But the main thing is to be yourself. Because if you start putting on this front, or if you start out as somebody else, you're not going to be able to keep that up, and nobody's going to attach to that. What people attach to is your personality. And just try to have fun, man. Like it comes across too when you're not. Believe me, I know. Just Yeah, it's the main thing is being comfortable with the camera. You know, put it in your face, talk a bit, but don't always keep it in your face. Show yourself doing other things. Don't do a 30-second walking shot. Nobody wants to see that. Do like a 2-second walking shot.
And don't do like a dozen walking shots in a row from
Right.
different angles.
No,
People
no.
get sick of watching you walk,
Yes,
Joe.
we don't want that.
So, Joe, you say be yourself to people. That's important. So, why do you enjoy going in the woods? You can film yourself doing a lot of other things. Why do you decide to go to the woods? Why do you make that your lifestyle rather than something else?
It's been, you know what I mean? It's just been my lifestyle. It was my passion. It was one of my only things I really enjoyed for a long time. And filming that started because I wanted to start participating in online courses and things like that, and it just evolved from there. But I am branching out. I'm starting to do these Wednesday videos, basically at home. I'm going to set up a studio down here in the basement. We're renovating right now. My basement's crazy, but I'm going to set up a soundproof studio, have like a desk with 2 chairs. I'm going to do a little podcast kind of thing on YouTube. I'm going to talk gear. I'm going to talk about what I'm feeling about. I did a talk in one of my videos about growing up without a father. You know, I can do things like that. You know, just talking. And I think I want to do that. It's a platform for me to just get things off my chest and talk about things and try and just branch out a little bit, to be honest with you. But I do enjoy being in front of the camera. I think I'm always going to be doing something like that, regardless if it's this or maybe there's a couple things in the works right now. But it's just the outdoor thing is because I started doing that and I love it, and that's my thing. You know what I mean? That's going to stick with me. That's going to be my thing throughout life.
What got you into the outdoors?
Living in a big city, I think. Living in, like, being in Canada, but not being in Canada. Not being in any country. For real. Like,
But really, living in
But
Canada,
really.
but
seeing, growing up watching things like even Fred Penner or Grizzly Adams, the Swiss Family Robinson, things along those lines. And then later on, and my mom would take me camping every now and then, just like car camping things. I was always really enamored with it. And then things later on in life, like Ray Mears, people like Ray Mears and Les Stroud really set it off for me. Morris Kahansky and stuff like that. But just wanting to be more of a dude, of a guy. You know what I mean? Like I said, I didn't have a dad growing up, so like I feel like I missed out on some like manly kind of stuff. So to me, it was always really cool and a little bit foreign to me too, like the camping thing. So when I got into it and when I started realizing I could go backcountry camping and learn these skills pretty readily, I was really I felt accomplished, and I was very very happy with myself for doing all of that, learning.
yeah. So you say, growing up without a dad, you're now super a dad. I mean, you're not fat, but like you're definitely a dad now. What's that like? What's that like raising a daughter? And she's getting older now. She's like what, 6?
Yeah, 6. Yeah.
6? That was a heck of a guess. 6 years old. And being a dad, what's that like? Are you trying to introduce your daughter to the outdoors, getting her to love it?
Yeah, man, it's great. Being a dad's awesome, as you know. It's amazing. It's gives you a whole different perspective on life and a little bit more calms you down a bit. She's been exposed. We've been on canoe trips countless times with her. She's went on our first camping trip when she was like 1. She's like any other kid. You don't want to overdo it with anything. You don't want to push them away from things, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
Exactly. I'm not trying to like shove it down her throat by any means, but she loves to go to the woods with me, and she likes to go camping, and we do a lot of things together. We go away a lot together. We do a lot of vacationing together. Nothing exotic, just going to cottages, going to campgrounds, going to hotels, and things like that. She's really she has her phases, but right now she's really 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 into me. She said, "Daddy's really crazy right now." So it's really cool. It makes it difficult to go away for these trips and stuff. Lately, they've only been a few nights that I've been gone away for and stuff, so it's not so bad. But like the 9-day kind of things really they're a bit tougher. But she understands. Like we have these conversations. Like I mentioned this on a video the other day. It's like other people's parents have to work. You know what I mean? 9 to 5s, and they're gone all day, and they don't get to see them any day. By the time the kid gets home, they're kind of by the time parents get home, the kids kind of going to school to bed.
Yeah.
So I'm gone for a few days, and then I'm back full time. And when I'm here, I'm here. So
Yeah. That's absolutely how I justify being gone for
Right.
a long time sometimes too, is like I can either work 12 hours a day and not see you but be living in the same house, or I could go work 24 hours a day out in the field for a while and then come back and spend a lot of time being a dad. So that's how I prefer to live my life too.
and you're even more appreciative of it, right? Because
You are.
you're gone, and they come back, and it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they love it. The wife loves it. The kids love it.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, I need to leave and come back. That's one more time. I need to leave and come back. I love being in the woods with the kids, and what you said about it changing your perspective of things. That's been my experience completely. Like bringing my kid to the woods. I remember I brought him to the woods as soon as he could walk, basically, to stumble around, and I have videos of him like tripping over trees, branches and stuff like that. But it's awesome to see your kids being in the woods and not needing any entertainment.
Yes.
Just being completely involved in the natural world, not needing all these toys. I've got a house full of toys right now. If I turn the camera around, you just see toys all over the place. And he plays with one toy maybe for a little bit. When he's in nature, no toys, never gets bored. It's almost like we as humans are wired to be living in nature rather than having all this stimulus going on with us all the time. Is it stimuli or stimulus?
I think both are acceptable.
You're the one who went to
Stimuli for
college,
sure.
Joe.
Not for words.
You didn't major in words? That
No.
wasn't your... Hey, Joe, what are you studying? Words. I do the words. I'm an accountant. I do the numbers.
Yeah, no, like I know exactly what you're talking about. Fire, bugs, sticks, helping me cut wood. She's just all about it. You know what I mean? Like I took her to my little camp when she was probably about 2, a little lean-to I had in the woods and stuff like that. And she's just like, this is great. You're right. She brought her little baby doll, but no like anything else, and she's like putting her in a little sleeping bag, and getting her. It's just great.
Yeah.
It's really awesome to see that. It's a fun time. Actually, one of my best videos, one of my favorite videos is called Camping with a Kid, and I take her out with the dog, and we just tarp camp in the springtime, and it's just great, man. It's like an hour of us just having a blast out there. It's really good.
Camping with the Kid. We're linking it in the show notes. Camping with the Kid. Look
There you
down.
go.
Camping with the Kid. That's awesome. And for me, I always view like raising the kids in this world as being like a crazy thing that we're trying to do, because as guys who hang out in nature, you and I know full well that a lot of the things we get in the real world, so to speak, are not good for you. The overstimulus, all the advertising, the crazy politics, all these different things, the tribalism that you can see in society. It's not necessarily a good thing. It's like we've come up with this world with all these great inventions that do make life easier in a lot of ways. Like I like talking to Joe when he's in Ontario and I'm in Nebraska. That's kind of a cool thing. But all the negative things that come around with it. And I think it's good to have other dads out there that see that and want to have their kids involved in the outdoors. I think that's great.
Dad life.
Dad life, man. Dad life all the way. Love being a dad. We should definitely answer some questions. I asked, just on the Facebook page this time, what questions folks wanted answered. There were at least 2 good ones. I'm just joking. There were a lot of good ones out there. Let's get started. Pull it up. And here's a good one. This was from Alan Ballard. How do you balance modern
I actually,
living with wilderness living?
I actually know him. That's pretty crazy. How do I balance? Sorry, say it again.
If you know him, you should have known from the first time I read the question,
I
Joe.
was I was already taken back, but anyways, go ahead.
Alan, I know him. He lives in
Alan
Michigan.
Ballard.
We should establish this first. Joe is like across from Detroit, is where he is.
Yes, right across.
He is like one coat of paint away from being in 8 Mile or whatever, 7 Mile, 8 Mile, whatever it was. Both. Yeah, absolutely. So, little Eminem over here. Alan Ballard asks, how do you balance modern living with wilderness living?
I don't live in the wilderness at all. I wouldn't say what I do is wilderness living. To be totally fair, my longest things that I've done lately have been like 9 days. You know, what I mean, I lived in Woodland Caribou, which is far up there. We took a float plane in, and we stayed there for 9 days. But those are just trips to me. You know what I mean? Those are camping trips. Those are survival trips sometimes, bushcraft trips, but they're just camping trips. I know you've done some wilderness living. I would call that wilderness living more so than what I do for sure.
I don't know about that.
Well, more so than what I've done.
Definitely superior to you in every way, Joe. Just kidding. So, but Joe, you are working towards that, right? You want to live in the woods. That's your goal, is to move the family into a place that's a little bit further away from the city, so to speak.
That's a good point. Definitely, yes. I would love to have. I'd like to have some property just outside of a city up north, or outside of a town up north. Maybe some water on it as well. A stream or a lake would be great. And then I would try to do some solar things. I would have some chickens and things like that. But I have a wife and a kid. You know what I mean? That don't want to go off grid by any means or anything like that. So it's okay. You know what I mean? There's got to be a balance somewhere. And I think that would be fine. To be able to have a piece of property up north that my kid could go run around, and like we're talking about, you know what I mean, already, to have that so accessible, and to be able to just walk outside and run around with the dog or whatever, that would be awesome. You know, and that's going to happen actually, and we're taking steps towards that, and it should happen sooner than later.
Awesome. Yeah, and the safety is what gets to me. Like, if you live remote in any way, it's so much safer than living in the city.
I totally agree.
Gosh, it's so much better. People always they think guys like you and I are just like risking our lives going into the woods for a little while, and I'm like,
not at all.
Not at all, man. Way safer in the woods.
Dude,
way
so
safer.
I have the same thought process. So right now I'm stuck between Detroit and Toronto. Toronto's huge, right? Toronto's like a small New York, okay, for Canada.
Detroit is Detroit.
Detroit is Detroit. I'm not going anywhere. I can't go here. I can't go here. I mean, so if anything happened, is my point. You know what I mean? So living up north, like you're saying, it's so much safer. I would feel like I could walk out the back and get fish. I could walk out the back and get moose or deer or whatever it need be, not even have to go to the city for anything. And obviously, those are dire circumstances, but that's where my head goes.
Yeah, I totally see it. I totally see it. I feel the same way, man. I'm living in the city. I'm not by big cities, like you would say, but Lincoln, big enough city. It's like 300,000 people.
It's decent, yeah.
Big enough for something bad to happen, something shady to happen.
Slim Shady.
You're a little closer to Slim Shady than me. All right. That was an awesome reference. Gosh, you wouldn't think having like an outdoor podcast you'd work Eminem into it, but it's always possible, man. It's always.
I don't know how much rap lyrics are in my videos, dude.
Bam, son.
Bam, son.
All right. Oh, here's one. This is from Ryan Penman. I actually know Ryan. Wow, man, I know that. I do actually. I'm pretty. Unless it's a different guy, I think I know Ryan Penman. I think I met him in Minnesota last year. Anyway, his question is, what is the strangest item or package that a fan has sent you to use in one of your videos?
the same guy that I got a gentleman from South Korea that sent me a crazy Korean chopper. I called it. It was like this crazy like cane cutting machete kind of thing. But inside that package, he sent me a bunch of freeze dried foods from South Korea, and I can't read anything on them because they're legit South Korea, right? So like, to the best of my knowledge, it's like freeze dried like squid and like eel and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
I plan on doing a video where I just eat, like, try it all, like, you know, in my house or whatever, just try it all.
That's great,
and I'm
man.
not like really like all that. Do you remember when we were for the show and the natives had the ceremony for us, and they cooked up the feast and they had that, what did they call it? That oil stuff, the danky.
Yeah, I know. That stuff that Brant was taking shots of.
Right. So I'm not really that kind of guy, you know what I mean? So I liken it to that. So it should be a good video anyway.
Yeah, it was like a seal oil type deal, wasn't it? But not quite.
You know what it was? They took the fish. It might have been cod. I can't really remember what kind. And they buried it in the sand and let it decompose, or whatever. And then it gelatinized and they scooped off the liquid, and that's what it was. It was like rotten fish liquid.
And we ate it.
We poured it all over.
Well, I don't know how quick you were to eat that stuff, but I remember it was just sitting there, and I was like, what do I do with this stuff? They're like, you put it on your crab, your potatoes, and this older gal, one of the elder women in the Quatsino First Nation, came up to me and she said, "You better drink that oil, or I'm kicking you off of my res."
I remember the same kind of thing. I was at the end of the buffet line, and I was trying to not take one. You know what I mean? Just like pretend whatever. And there was like an elder, like, take it. Like, he didn't say it, but his eyes were like, take that. So
it's like,
took it.
You roll up in my land here, my tribal ceremonial areas,
right.
And you think,
Wayne and I got a standing ovation because we were the only Canadians there.
Yep. I remember making a comment to you about, hey, what about letting that other Canadian guy on there for a little more entertainment? And Joe's response was, I don't think anyone else from Canada needs to go on this for now. I think we've done all the damage necessary to Canada.
Yeah, that was a blow.
Which is not necessarily true because, obviously awesome things have happened with Canadians and with you guys who are on there, but very funny at the moment. That was all. I forget all about that stuff that happened, but yeah, the minute we got there, the First Nations folks, they wanted to show us more about their culture, and of course we were more than eager to learn about it. And so we got invited over for a ceremony. You know, the participants and First Nations people there, and they danced for us, and there's food, and it was just a great time. And behind the scenes footage, I believe the first episode of season 2, which is like behind the scenes stuff, they actually showed part of the dance and those things. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of it back then, a few years ago. But so it actually turned out on TV. That was an awesome experience.
Do you remember at the end, we actually all got up and danced with them?
We did.
Yeah, and there was like some like I don't want to say names, but like, for the longest time, a couple of guys from our group were sitting there like this.
Yeah.
And like, everybody got up though at the end. Everyone was up and danced.
Do you recall the what almost got me in trouble?
Yo, I sure do. As soon as you said that, I sure do.
Yeah,
you were slick. You're a smooth operator, Sam. I'll tell you that much.
Well, I didn't notice till Josh Chavez told me. After I sat down, I had no idea what I had said in the moment. So during the ceremony, let's give a little backstory on this. During the ceremony, we had they have a class they go to in school called culture class, and they brought out the kids who were taking the culture class, and the teacher was there talking, and he said, "You see, we're dressed in red because red is the color of our people, and red represents the pride we have for our culture." He said all these nice things about red stuff, and about being, red was their color. And I felt an instant connection with that because the Nebraska Cornhuskers, obviously, red is the color of my people as well. So my people and his people, same colors. So I get up and I phrased it about as poorly as possible. How I described our kinship bond was, you're red people and I'm red people, so we're both red people. You know, it wasn't
my
until
jaw hit the floor, dude. I swear.
No idea. I just called a room full of about 200 native folks red people on accident.
100%. Everyone knew it was unintentional. We all knew it was unintentional. It was just so poorly worded.
Well, I looked in the elder guys. They were in the back row there, and some of them were sitting by their drums, and they're just cracking up. I thought they just thought I was a goofy guy.
No, you got a round of applause from the band, for sure you did. Yeah, no, there was no like ill will. Like they were all like, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Man, we're gonna have to do another question to get out of that one. Whoa.
Yeah.
All the memories coming back. Alrighty, so getting back into it. Okay, we might need to do more than that, but I don't know about your ferro rod. Do you still use a ferro rod, Joe?
All the time.
All the time. I love ferro rods. They're great.
Yeah.
I almost want to be a part of that like weird elitist group that thinks that they shouldn't ever use ferro rods, but I just love them so much. And I like matches better. I don't really like using lighters, but I do like ferro rods.
I'm right there with you. I like matches too. I think ferro rods are just handy. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna. The thing is, it is super important, and you don't need to use one every time. And I use one on video all the time, but there's just because I carry it. You know what I mean? Like I could use a lighter, I can use a match. It's just it'd be silly not to carry a fire steel. It'd be silly not to carry one.
And they last so long. Like the one I had on when we were out there.
Yeah, mine lasted a long time.
They last forever. Mine, you can barely tell it was used. And I used it for 8 weeks in the Pacific Northwest. It's crazy. Because it was a nice big fat one, right?
Yeah, mine's still, it's almost full still.
Somewhere. I want to post a scene of someone finding a ferro rod with barnacles all over it. This is Joe's.
Some guy in Japan.
Just showed up at the Honda plant. So here's a good one. Nathan asks, he says, I'd like to know if you, Joe, are going to teach classes again. He lives just on the other side of the river from him, the U.S. side, and would love to go to one. So are you... People who don't know, Joe did classes for... Actually, you better say it, Joe. So you did classes for a while. What are you doing now?
Yeah, we did a few courses, probably a handful. No, I don't think so. I don't think I want to do it. If I do, it's not going to be on my own. It just wasn't. It wasn't worth it at all. There was a lot of legality issues and expenses that did not get covered. And it took a lot of time away from YouTube, where that's my job. You know what I'm saying? So people, you can say, well, you're getting paid to go camping with people, but that's not the case. You're not just camping. You know what I mean? You're really responsible for those people, and you have it's kind of stressful at the same time. So I didn't mind doing it. I enjoy the teaching part of it, but I would probably do it under another school if possible, as like a guest instructor or something along those lines. But maybe down the road, depending if I get some land or if I get some free time and stuff. But I don't have any desire to anytime soon, or any really plans to anytime soon.
Yeah. You know what you would really enjoy, Joe, is going to the primitive skills gatherings. You would love those things.
Yeah.
As soon as you can, I would say you should go to any of them. You know, you go there, you learn a new skill. They're cheap when you consider what you're doing there. Like, you're getting all this instruction. You pay like $350 for a whole week, which includes 2 meals a day and camping and water and all that stuff. And you just get to go out and learn. And if people like you, you can eventually be an instructor there, and you would love it. I love it. Learning.
Are you going to any soon, or is there any coming up at all? Or?
The one I go to is Rabbit Stick.
Yeah, that's
in
a big
Rexburg,
one.
Idaho. I love it. It's I think before I went to it, I thought it was a bunch of crazy elitist primitive people, and it's
Okay, that's
absolutely
kind
not
of
true.
the idea I had, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the idea it gets. I think that stems from, and it's not anyone's fault. This is where I think it comes from. A lot of people, when like Dual Survival, the first season came out, they were watching Cody Lundin and what he does, and they kind of made him into a god, so to speak. And they've done the same thing with Matt Graham. Those two guys are both in the same general like community out west as instructors. They both taught for Boulder Outdoor Survival School, did primitive living stuff in the Southwest. And I think they look at that and they think everyone is like some elitist, primitive, purist guy down there. And there's such a variety of people. And most of the people there are just love being in the outdoors. They love goofing around. There are some goofy people there. That's why I fit in so well, is because I just dork off the whole time. Basically, when I'm at Rabbit Stick. And it's a accepting community. You show up, no one judges you. I mean, you could probably do something really stupid, and then they talk about you. But yeah, it's a really welcoming community. A lot of really old people that have a lot of really good skills, and it's a low key, no judgment type of place to learn a new skill. So many people that show up there have baseline skills. Are very they're introductory folks.
Right.
So I think the gatherings are great for anyone. Just be yourself.
When is Rabbit Stick?
Rabbit Stick is the second week of September.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? If you go next year, I'll go.
Well, I'll go.
I'll go.
I'm going already. You better buy your plane ticket.
There you go.
Bam, son.
Bam, son. Yeah, I'll go. How far in advance should I buy my ticket?
Right now. No, I'm just kidding. Not really. I don't think it's ever filled up, but there's look it up on the Rabbit Stick. Yeah, backtrack sale. It's a good thing. You fly into either Idaho Falls and get a car, or fly into Salt Lake City. I can pick you up if I'm going there.
I'll
work it out.
I'll definitely go, man. I've been to big meetups before. Like when I was on the Bushcraft USA forum, we went to a couple really big meetups. Like I don't know, maybe not as big as that, but like 60, 70 guys, pretty decent turnout sometimes. And it's the same deal, dude. It's like you're saying, man. It's just people just acting a fool, being themselves. It's just a good time. There's all sorts of different skill levels, different types of people, like you're saying. So I do dig that environment. I really enjoy that. I haven't gone to one in a long time.
Yeah. And Rabbit Stick is a family event, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
So if
Nice.
you wanted to bring your wife and kid, they could come. If they wanted to come, I should say,
Right.
and be out there. It's very family friendly these days, and it's an awesome event. But that goes my sales pitch for somebody else's business. Well deserved, but excellent. Yeah, so highly recommended. Yeah, a lot of people don't get that about running courses. It's really difficult legally. It's really difficult if you don't live in an area where there's cheap land. For instance, where I live, you can buy land that there's nothing on. You could buy like an old unfertile cornfield next to a interstate for like 20 grand an acre or 30 grand an acre. Then again, there's places, if I ever buy land, it'll be down in the Ozarks probably, where you can get land for like $2,000 an acre. It's wooded. There's no zoning, building codes or anything like that. So you find patches like that. Oh yeah, it's real easy to get land and start a school and do that. It still takes a ton of work to set up and advertise, and a ton of your time to go out there and set up a curriculum and do. But yeah, it's difficult to run courses. And what I experienced when I was trying to run courses, and I guess I still probably will in the spring do some like foraging and whatnot. But your reach is far less than it would be sometimes teaching at a gathering or doing your online stuff. Like most folks who know about my stuff, even though I've gained a little bit of like local legendary, so a lot of it, I'm really popular in Lincoln actually. That's a joke, not really. But yeah, it's a lot of work for not a lot of reward, and unless you find your niche and have a good system down, it's just not that profitable sometimes. So
that's exactly right. That's exactly what I found. And I was traveling, no joke, 9 hours to go do these courses, dude. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, you get to call up an insurance place, if you're being safe.
Fire axe.
So we're going to be doing some, let's call it ecotourism. Would you like to insure me? Oh, sure. What are you doing? Don't drop the S-bomb, the survival bomb, or the wilderness bomb. It happens. But, yeah, so that's super difficult. I found where I live, permissions to do a commercial activity are super difficult to come by, so to speak. So yeah, it's hard and boring in some ways. I feel like we should end this podcast in a less boring way than talking about how difficult it is to start a school.
Failed business.
So,
all right.
So Joe, obviously we can find you it's Joe Robinet on YouTube. This is all going to be in show notes, but what's your website?
Okay, so yes, Joe Robinette on YouTube, joerobinette.com is my website. I have a little bit of merchandise there. The shirts are not on my website. Maybe you can just put the link in there. It's a super long, or you can just go to my last YouTube video and check that out, and it'll tell you exactly where to get those. My Instagram is Joe Robinette Bushcraft. Twitter is Joe Robinette Bushcraft.
Awesome photography on the Instagram, by the way. Excellent stuff on Insta by Joe Robinet. Always. And Joe, what is next for you? What are you working towards, man?
I gotta blow up. I gotta get bigger. I wanna branch out. I want to hit 1 million subscribers in maybe a year and a half. And to do that, I'm going to need to start doing more videos. So 2 videos a week. Like I said, my midweek video is going to be more of just me talking about my personal stuff. Still doing my big trips once a week on Fridays. I have a bucket list trip coming up where I'm flying to Yellowknife and then getting picked up.
Dang, Yellowknife.
Yeah, and then getting picked up and flown to the Great Slave Lake and fishing for like monster lake trout and all sorts of fish. There's musk ox there. I'm going to be getting dropped off on an island and camping for a few nights by myself. Musk ox, crazy fish, almost subalpine terrain. So that's going to be a big trip for me this year. Just more of the same and a little bit of new.
Yeah, if you want to find out how stinking remote Yellowknife is, put it in the Google machine. Google Maps, Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, Canada, and see just how out in the boonies that is. And that's your launching point.
She's up there, bud.
Yeah. By the way, sorry if I've made fun of anything that you've said, while we've done this. It's really.
Do you remember in the grocery store, Overweighties? We're walking. And,
the grocery store called Overweighty. Yep, Overweighties.
Myself and this other Canadian lady almost bumped into each other, and we're both like, "Oh, sorry."
Sorry about that. Oh, sorry.
You're standing right behind me, and I just look behind you. You're just like beet red, almost ready to die.
Gotta love Canadians, man. Gotta love them.
Oh yeah,
man. Awesome, dude. Well, it's good to hear all that, and I'm glad you're doing well. So, if people get anything out of this, even if you fail the first time, keep going. Be a Joe Robinette. Don't be a quitter. Make something of this world. Get out there. Do your best. Anything to add, Joe?
Just really good to talk to you, buddy. It's been a long time. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad you're doing well as well.
It's good to talk to you, man.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys, thank you once again so much for listening, and we hope to have you back for another episode of the Woodsong podcast really, really soon.